Hey, this is David Hayter. You may know me as the screenwriter of films like X-Men, X-Men 2, and Watchmen, but you probably know me best as the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Kept you waiting, huh?
Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Decked Up, a Steam Deck podcast. I'm your host, Mekel, Kasanova. We are joined today with the very first guest ever of the show. Big honor, big fan of the one, the only Bill of Nerdness. Bill, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you doing?
Nervous, man. I'm sitting here talking with you.
It's funny. My wife was, we were babysitting my grandson. And we were on our way home, and she wanted to stop at the grocery store to pick something up, and I can't stand going into stores, so I just opened up YouTube and I was like, I gotta find something to watch, and I saw that you were live right then. I was like, oh, I wonder who that is, and I clicked, and you were talking about the Steam Deck, and I was like, oh, hey, I said something in chat, and you were like, hey, you should come on the show, and I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty chill. I think I will.
I was really shocked because I'm like I said, I'm a big fan of your channel, your content, love your podcast, and it's like, when I saw you in the chat, I had to double take. I was like, wait, is that Bill? I was like, what? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an honor having you on the show, and it's like, this, having you as the first guest, like I'm so. I need to get over the just initial shock. I'll get through it as we go through this episode, but definitely great to have you on the show. And so much news has dropped today. I know we were talking a little bit about it before we started recording, but okay, so we got the dock. They just dropped that. The price is what, $89.99 US dollar, and
Yep.
Yeah, so there's no more queues apparently for Steam Deck, so you can go ahead and just order it today. So, all right, let's.
You should.
Yes, you should. You definitely should. You definitely should. So what are your thoughts as far as like the dock just getting announced like out of the blue?
Honestly, I'm not even a little surprised. I have been talking about this on my channel for a long time, and I've said over and over, my biggest gripe with the Steam Deck is that the docked experience was terrible. And then it was, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, maybe, or maybe just 2 weeks ago. They're so fast with their beta iterations.
Yeah.
They updated the preview channel in order to make it so that you can choose the resolution, and it'll auto scale everything. And the performance, as soon as you plug that in, the performance was, or use that channel, the performance was infinitely better. It was a much better experience. It felt a lot more like, say, plugging your Nintendo Switch into a TV. It was a needed improvement. And I said, all right, this is on preview right now. I don't know how fast they're going to move, but as soon as this hits stable, they're going to ship the dock, because I felt like, and I said this many times, that I'm sure that they were dealing with shipment constraints and what's the word I'm looking, logistics. Like they were just running into logistics issues, but also it would have been a really bad look for them to ship the official dock, have somebody buy it, plug their Steam Deck in, put it on the TV, and have it perform the way it was.
Yeah.
So I knew that as soon as they got the software fixed, that we were going to see the dock. In fact, I tweeted that out as soon as they had pushed the software, like, because we got a software update last night that took all of the previous stuff to the stable channel. And I tweeted something along the lines of, I'm calling it now, the dock is, the official dock is imminent. And then the next day, they announced the official dock. So it's not super surprising, but it is exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of like the dock, like with the price, that's something like. So when I did my video today, like the comments that they're still flowing in is just, it's too expensive. Why is it so? Why do you have to pay that much? You can just get the Ivalier or the JSOX dock. And it seems like a lot of people are not realizing that you're paying for the power brick. That's really like, it's probably the same price as the JSOX, but then you're also adding in the price of the power brick, which is
absolutely,
like what is it, 65 watt? Usually those are $20 to $30 by themselves, right?
Is it? Well, I think it's 45 watts.
45 watts, yeah.
But that's beside, like, numbers, not a big deal. I don't know how much one of those usually costs. I do agree. You got to realize that you're also paying for the brick. But I do think that Valve made a mistake there. They should have said, you can buy the dock for this price, or you can buy the dock and the power brick for this price. And give people options so that if there's somebody out there who only wants the dock, like maybe they only have one TV, in which case, why would you bother plugging in your Steam Deck anywhere else? I guess I could understand why people might want to take the power brick with them. I'm not one of those. I don't bother charging it when I go places, and if I run it out when I go places, then I find something else to do. But they should have given customers the option to say, you know what, I only want this, instead of bundling them together. I think the bundle was a mistake.
Yeah, and do you think that, I guess in the coming weeks or months, that they might eventually offer that option? I think they definitely I agree with you. They definitely should.
I don't know if they will, because there could, and listen, I don't know anything about like supply chain issues and things like that, and how you market something. I don't know if they will, because that adds one more SKU for them to keep track of. Like, you already have to have a box that you can put the power brick and the dock into, right? And then suddenly it's not just as simple as saying, well, just don't put the power brick in there, because now you have to have like a separate like assembly, like an assembly line that like skews off to the side and does it without the power brick. So maybe they'll do that in the future, but maybe there's a reason why, because they like have done market research or something, and if they know something that we don't. I will say that I don't think it's overpriced for what you're getting, but I think that that forcing people to, well, I guess, you know what, they're not forcing you, because you can just buy a third party one and have it be awesome.
No, well, that's true. And I think one of the things that one of the comments I got, one of the people were saying that they don't see the value in the dock because who uses a DisplayPort? And I thought that was wild, because I'm like, okay, I use, all my monitors are DisplayPort. The only HDMIs I use is usually for the Steam Deck dock that I have, or for my Xbox Series X or PlayStation or the Switch. But beyond that, I have so many DisplayPort docks. So that plus the USB 3.1, the three of them, I think that's going to be fairly useful, for at least for me.
Yeah, I'm not super techie. I don't know the difference between USB 3.0 and 3.1. But as far as like DisplayPort, like, you're hooking it up to a computer monitor, and what are you then taking the like a speaker wire and plugging that into the top of the Steam Deck at the same time? Like, is that how you're doing it? Because I think most people are thinking of this as like, this is my console, and most TVs don't have DisplayPort. Most like monitors have DisplayPorts, but most monitors don't have speakers. So how are you getting the audio out then?
Typically I just I run the audio into my capture card or to my audio interface typically.
Oh, okay.
So that's just for this setup. For when I'm in the living room or another room, I just use just the HDMI. But for me personally, I would just want the DisplayPort just because I have so many cables for it. So that's what I'm saying. Like for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
it makes more sense. But I can understand like HDMI. That's the more common thing a lot of people are going to be using.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they have both of those on there. I like both of my monitors here have DisplayPort, but I think like both of the monitors that I have on my desk have one DisplayPort, and my PC is hooked up to both of those right now, so that like I don't have a way to use DisplayPort, and I think most people don't. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they shouldn't put it on there because it's there in case somebody needs it. And I think somebody in my comment section said like, because I said, why would you use DisplayPort? And they said because there's no licensing that goes along with DisplayPort, and there is licensing for HDMI, so that's like why it exists. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't, and maybe they were wrong about that. I'm just telling you what some schmo on the internet told me. But I really think of this more of a thing that you plug into a TV than a computer monitor, unless you're using the Steam Deck like a desktop computer, in which case, sure, hook it up via DisplayPort and then run your audio interface into the thing. I just think that like I wish that there was an audio port on the back of the Steam Deck dock, because that would make plugging audio things in a little bit, well, maybe not. I don't. Yeah, you know what? It would make plugging audio things easier, because then you could have all that stuff plugged into the dock and then a single wire instead of having to do
Yeah.
two wires. But I mean, listen, first world problems, right?
And speaking of using the Steam Deck as like a full-on computer, I've actually had to do that for the last 2.5 weeks. So we recently we sold our house and we moved into this condo in Waikiki, and so we got here. My desktop and my gaming laptop, they both went down. So I had
Hmm.
to take. So interesting thing about Hawaii is we only have two Best Buys out here. There aren't really
Mm-hmm.
any computer specialty places. There's like maybe one, and they charge an arm and a leg. So it's like the price of going there, you might as well go to Best Buy anyway. A lot of stuff you can't really ship here. So I was like, okay, let me go to Geek Squad because I can't get what I need to do the repairs myself. Geek Squad. Oh my goodness. So, um, I've had to just use the Steam Deck as a makeshift, like for like uh, documenting and writing reviews. I've occasionally used OBS with it. It's not the greatest, but I'm like, okay, at least I have something, and it
Mm-hmm.
does work, and I like that. But I think someone said that they wanted to, in my comment section, they said they wanted to use it like as their only computer for like everything, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
I
Like,
think it depends on what you do. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I would recommend, like, if I were talking to my mom and I said, "Mom, you want to buy a new computer? Just get an iPad. Like, you'll be fine
yeah,
with an iPad because of what she does." And if you're doing like the same kind of thing that like my mom does, where she's just, going to a website and checking her email, maybe a couple of shopping, like maybe a little bit of shopping, but you also want to play a few games, I could see the Steam Deck as a viable alternative. Um, it wouldn't be good enough for me, but
hmm,
for a lot of people, it'd be fine. Like tons of people, their only computing device is their phone.
yeah.
So I think that you could probably get by with just a Steam Deck if you wanted to have a device that also played games. Um, but I think those people are few and far between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're definitely not the majority. And it's been like the experience has been not terrible. It's just when I need to go into doing more stuff, like if I need to do, well, I mean, thankfully I got my desktop back this past week, but like if I need to do like video editing or anything like that, I'm just going to my wife's computer and just doing everything there. But like, I mean, there are some applications. I think it's called Caden, which is like a Linux video editing software you can use, and then you can use what is it, GIMP for like photo editing. I've done that for a couple of my thumbnails in the past week on the Steam Deck, and it's relatively okay. I mean, so long as I'm not trying to do anything too intensive, it's fine. But I think, like you said, like if you're looking for a computing device, I would, yeah, an iPad. My mom actually is like looking for a computer, and I'm like, just get an iPad. And she's like, no, I don't want to spend that kind of money. She wants to get this cheap Android tablet, and I'm like, you don't even know. I'm like, don't do it because you're gonna replace it. It's not meant to last. Plus, you don't know how to operate Android. So
I've had my iPad for, I think I got an iPad Pro. It's the one without the home button. 12.9 inch one. I'm not sure how long I've had. I think it's like 4, maybe 5 years at this point, and it's still lightning fast at everything that I have to do. So I think it's a good computing solution for a lot of people out there, but not for everybody.
Yeah, actually, I think that it's about four or so, almost 5 years. Because they had the 12-inch and then they dropped the 11-inch around that same time frame. I have the 11-inch, and every time I look at the newer iPads, I'm like, I don't see a need to update.
I mean, I want a new one, but I'm not spending money on it because this one still is just fantastic.
I heard the M1 chip is it M2? I think it's the M2 chip in the newer one. It's supposed to be really good and power efficient, but yeah, let's see. So, as far as the Steam Deck, what games have you been playing this week so far?
This week I've been, well, because we have Steam Next Fest going on right now, so there's a bunch of demos. I downloaded a bunch of demos. Some of them didn't work, and I can't remember which ones they were. It wasn't because the demo didn't work, but it was because like it wasn't designed around, like it wasn't designed for a controller at all, and it wasn't a game that I knew, so I was like, I can't be bothered to figure out how to put this in right now, because I just didn't care enough. Like if I had bought the game, I would have said, all right, let's figure out some Steam input settings for this, and I'll figure it out and try it out. But it was a game that I was like, well, I've never heard of it. I just tried it because it looked cool, and I didn't like the way that it played, so I ended up just deleting it. But one that really stuck out to me that I've really been having, or not been having a lot of fun with because I've only played a little bit, is Gunbrella, where you are like this little dude who has a gun that is also an umbrella, and you can use the umbrella to float in any direction that you want, whenever you want, just by hitting the right bumper button. And you can also use the umbrella part as like a shield to block like incoming projectiles or bounce incoming projectiles back if you time it right. It's a really cool game. What have you been playing?
So, I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. I'm doing the review of that. Runs beautifully on the Steam Deck. Roughly able to get like 3.5 hours default settings. It's fun. I think I'm just tired of going through Persona like 5 again, because it's like I played it 2017. I played it in 2020 when they re-released it as the Royal, and it's like, okay, I'm doing it again because I'm covering for Steam Deck and for Switch. So it's just more of like a been there, done that type of feeling. But it runs good, so I'm playing that. There's Solstice. I started playing that, and it's kind of like a action and heavy, like Devil May Cry type of game. God of War, like I really like that so far. And then I'm playing Sturgios, which is like kind of like a Greek type of game. So you're playing a female main character. It's kind of like Zelda meets God of War in a way. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So that's coming out in a week, well, for, as of this recording, and that's good. And I'm also trying out Solstice, not Solstice, Moonrider. That's a demo that just dropped yesterday, and it's kind of like Shinobi 3 on the Genesis meets
Ooh,
Mega Man X. It's really good.
Moon
Really,
what? Raider?
Moonrider. I'll send you.
Rider. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you. It's that really caught my attention because I was not expecting that. Like I've seen trailers of it, over the year, but then like when they're like, oh yeah, demo's available now, and I download it, it's really really good. Like that one.
That's awesome.
If you like old school games, I'm a big Sega Genesis nerd, so yeah, that
Oh,
was really
speaking of
good.
old school, Shovel Knight Dig. I've been playing lots of Shovel Knight Dig. That game's rad.
I need to pick that up. I love the Shovel Knight games. Like
Mhm.
that is something I feel like that's one of the most successful I want to say in the last decade, like of a retro game that just really like surprised people. Because you had a lot of indie style games that were retro inspired, but I feel like that was the one that really caught the mass. That one, and then Cuphead, and then it just goes from
Mhm.
there. So,
Yeah.
like, can we get a
And the
new?
Steam Deck is just a fantastic place for indies.
It really is. It really is. Which, speaking of which, what are your thoughts on? Because I know you spoke about it previously on one of your episodes of your podcast, but the I've seen this kind of uptick more so lately with Near Automata coming to the Switch. I think it just released today. A lot of people feel that I guess that it's best to be played on Switch, and that if you play it on the Steam Deck, you're just not going to have any good battery experience. And then there seems to be like this Switch versus Steam Deck discourse, and I don't understand. I get it, but I don't. I guess because I'm older and I went through the Nintendo and Sega war, so it's like, is it really? I don't know. I don't understand the Switch. Like, okay, they're both portable.
Mm-hmm. As soon as you can make an easy comparison between two things, especially two things that make really clickable headlines,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to always see writers and YouTubers try and include both of those things just for no other reason than SEO. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I make a video about the Switch, and I also make a video about the Steam Deck, and they both perform really well, and then I decide, hey, what if I compare these two things because they are both portable things?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the people who are interested in the Switch and the people who are interested in the Steam Deck are both likely to click on this thing, especially if you are doing like a versus thing, because people are always out there looking for confirmation that whatever choice that they made was the right one. And, you mentioned, Nintendo versus Sega back in the 90s and stuff. The console wars, like the theme of my channel is gaming discussion without console wars, because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the games.
Mm-hmm.
But that stuff gets clicks, and it gets clicks because people are looking to have their opinion verified by somebody else. Hey, I think this. I'm going to click on this video and get some confirmation bias that says, hey, guess what? You're right. And
Mm-hmm.
so it behooves writers and YouTubers and all these other people to try and make those comparisons, because they're going to get clicked on.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they start making those comparisons, it kind of pushes the dialogue in that direction. And so then all of the people who are watching or reading these articles or watching these videos, they start having that conversation as well, which on YouTube makes for more engagement, and it
Mm-hmm.
drives up it makes the video more likely to perform well. So that's the reason. That's the reason, in my opinion, and I'm just some nerd in his attic. That's the reason why you see that all the time. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did an episode, Switch versus Steam Deck, for this specific reason, is to talk about why we're always seeing the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the right answer is, why not both?
That's where I'm at. Like so I reviewed Near Automata recently, and one of the things, so I reviewed it on the Switch, and the only thing I said was that I apparently triggered a lot of Nintendo Switch super fans and some of the Nintendo Switch YouTubers, was that it may not be the most optimal way to play the game performance wise, because they're, for them converting it from, you know, the PS4 or Xbox version to the Switch, there's a lot of like technical and graphical hiccups that I ran into that are not present on other versions. Of course, they can patch that out, but you know, when you can play it, if you're looking for the optimal way, if you want like the best graphics and best frames per second, yeah, there are better ways to play it. But if this is your only platform and you want to play it on the Switch, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. But just saying that there are other ways to play it, or more optimal ways to play it, I was like, yeah, I stepped into that one, didn't I?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Here's the way I look at it. And if you're giving your opinion, you're always going to tick somebody off.
Yeah.
So I really only care about one person's opinion when it comes to what I do, and that's my opinion. And if other people don't like my opinion, they are free to tell me that they don't like my opinion, but I don't care what they think. I might ask what they think, but for those people that are like, you're wrong and you're a jerk and you console wars and tribalism and Sony's the best and Microsoft is like that kind of thing, those people, as far as I'm concerned, are morons, and I am uninterested in their opinions, because they're more interested in supporting a company than they are just playing a game.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe it drives me crazy because maybe a game runs at 800p on, or not 800p, like 1800p on the Xbox, and it runs at 2160p on the PlayStation. And the PlayStation fanboys will, they'll put their arms on their sides and they'll be like, "See, you guys are all morons." And I'm like, "Really? Who cares? Just get over yourselves."
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, do you want to play the game? And if you're going to play the game, just what kind of I look at it as, what controller do you want to pick it up and play it with? Or do you want to play with keyboard and mouse? Or do you want to play portably, Switch, Steam Deck, or even what's the other one, the Analog Pocket, which I've been loving.
Right.
I love the Analog Pocket. That's just, I don't need it, but I love it.
And before all of the Microsoft or the Sony people are like, "Well, we're not jerks," guess what? Microsoft people do the same thing. Nintendo people do the same thing. There's Steam Deck people that do the same thing.
Yeah.
There's every single thing that there is. There are people out there pledging undying fealty to it, and I don't understand that.
Companies don't care one way or another.
Right.
So speaking of that, what are your thoughts on the, let's see, what is it? I had a question. Actually, no, skip that. There's a question. Let me go ahead and just get to that. So we had a question. I put a poll up on my YouTube channels and let people know I was going to be having you on the show. So BT Maverick 707 asked, he said, "Hey, Bill and Mekel, this is like seeing my two good friends finally get to hang out. My question is, what kind of flat packs or apps would you guys like to eventually see come to Steam Decks in the near future?"
I'm the wrong person to ask about that. Like, I have I have Retro Deck, and that's I think that flat pack I installed just to see if it was easier than MU Deck or wildly different than MU Deck.
Mhm.
And before everybody gets mad at me and says like Retro Deck is better or MU Deck is better, go back 5 minutes and remember that I don't have allegiance to one or the other, and maybe you shouldn't either. They both have their applications, and that's fine. I currently have Retro Deck. I don't see how it's better than MU Deck. I don't see how MU Deck is better than Retro Deck, but I can't be bothered to switch everything back over, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is and play retro games. What flat packs would I like to see? Like what software? I think you're asking the wrong guy, because I only go to gaming or to desktop mode if I have to.
Yeah.
I don't go to desktop mode for anything. Not because I think it's bad. I don't have anything against Linux. I don't know Linux. I'm a Mac guy. Like that's where I do all of my stuff. Mac and Windows. That's what I use. I don't use Linux, so I don't have a good answer. Are you a Linux guy?
I'm familiar with it. I think I'm more familiar with it because I had to use it for like 3 weeks straight. But no, I'm
right.
more I'm a PC and Mac guy because I float between the two of those usually. But Linux, I've dabbled here and there, but I'm not the most technical when it comes to Linux. So I think for me, I think I really have an answer for that question either, because yeah, I don't. The only time I go to desktop is when I need to get a new Proton from QT Proton.
Yeah.
You
Oh.
know?
Oh God. Listen, Glorious Egg Roll, find a way for us to do this in gaming mode, please.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give Maverick an answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my answer. I want the content creation software that I use on Windows and Mac. I want to see a flat pack for Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo. Those are my photo editing stuff that I use. I would like to see a Rode Connect flat pack so that if I wanted to, I could hook my Rodecaster Pro 2 and have my Steam Deck be my podcasting machine. So it's kind of a cop-out, because even if those things existed, I wouldn't bother. But it would be awesome for people who really want Linux stuff, and I want more people to have access to the things that they want to have access to. So give us all the flat packs.
No, I mean that's yeah. If we can have higher compatibility with stuff and just make it, if we could just access things from just gaming mode, you know, I would be fine with that. But half the times, and I noticed like since the recent update, it hasn't been as much of an issue. But before, when I would go to desktop mode, half the times the trackpads would stop working. You know, like
yeah, that would happen until Steam started. As soon as Steam started, then it would work, because Steam is the thing that Steam input is the thing that lets you control it. And that was frustrating. Like you'd switch into desktop mode and you're like, my trackpad isn't working yet. And then you got to wait, try it again. Nope, not yet. Wait. And then boom, it starts. And then you're, there we go. Now it works.
So yeah, if they can just make the store available, or certain things like just get QT Proton to just run in game mode, so I don't have to go to desktop mode, I'd be happy, because I spent a lot of time within the last 18 hours trying to find a Proton that would work with the Street Fighter 6 beta. None of them do. That does not run at all on the Steam Deck.
Have you tried? I haven't even tried this. Like maybe we're complaining over nothing. Have you tried adding Proton QT to Steam so that you can just launch it from gaming mode? I have yet to try that. People are probably have already commented 1,000 times. Hey, try this, you dummies. Have you tried that? I haven't tried it.
No.
Okay.
I probably
we're probably wrong. It's probably an easy solution, and it just never occurred to me until right now, this moment.
But yeah, like I was trying to get Street Fighter 6 the beta because I think that goes live in about 6 or 7 hours, and yeah, I had other content creators. They're like, "Hey, were you able to get it to work on Steam Deck?" I'm like, "No, no,
Mm.
no, no."
Come on, Capcom. I'm
Seriously,
excited for that game because
it looks
I
really
was
good.
it looks really good, and boy, this is gonna make some people real mad.
Go
I'm
for it.
excited that they have the dummy controls, like the Smash like controls
Hmm.
for this game, because when I remember playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcade back in the day, like back in the 90s, and it was cool. And I had time to throw a bunch of quarters in there, and I could get good at the quarter circle forward heavy punch or whatever the heck they called it. I was fine with that. But as I got older, I can't put in the time in order to get good at the dexterity manipulation of the controls, and I
Hmm.
prefer to just have it come down to understanding, good spacing and knowing how far your character can reach when you do a certain ability, instead of who's better at, the forward and then down quarter circle forward thing. Like all that stuff. I've always been bad at that. So I like that, and that's why I'm interested in Street Fighter 6. I didn't play Street Fighter 5 or 4 or 3 because I just couldn't be bothered to learn how those control. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's been like an ongoing conversation. Like, I guess with fighting game purists, their thing is simple controls ruin fighting game, and I'm like, why should that ruin a game? If you're good at it, you should be able to adjust on the fly. Like you shouldn't be
Yeah, if they're
bothered,
good at it, they should be able to smoke me because I'm no good.
right? So it's like it shouldn't matter because one of the things that, and I feel like there's kind of this disconnect with not only fighting games, but like a lot of genres are getting better with like simplified controls. You kind of, well, not kind of, you want more people playing your game
Hmm.
because it's nice having a fandom. It's nice having those who will always come through, but you don't want to just stay where you are. You want to expand. You want more people. It's like, I've given an example. Say like what, 15 years ago, I was a store manager retail, and one of the things that I was taught then is, yeah, you're gonna have the customers that always come through, but the whole point of having signs outside and sales and stuff is drawing new people. You always
Hmm.
want to get new people coming in, and so it's just that concept seems to be lost on a lot of people. Like like a new entry of a game comes out and it's oh, what was it? Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Like I'm a big fan of the Xeno franchise. I've been there since Xenogears in '98, and I'm not the biggest fan of Xenoblade. I like it, but I understand that they're not diving into like the philosophy, the religion, the politics that they did in the earlier games, because that can go over a lot of people's head. Like let's make it simpler. So while I enjoy it, it's not as deep and profound. I'm like, oh, I don't. There's mean Friedrich Nietzsche references in this, and it's not all that. But more people are playing it, which means there might be interest in going back to the older style. So it's, I don't mind simplification and controls and drawing in new people when it comes to games. I think a lot of the hardcore just don't see that a game, the sustainability of a game is not going to stick with just you.
Well, I also think that one of the big flaws that people have
Mm-hmm.
is that they really have trouble, they really struggle to look at something from outside of their perspective. And their perspective is, I've been playing Street Fighter, whatever, for however long, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the way it's always been. So it should stay that way because that's what I like. And I totally get what they're saying, but they're not taking those controls away from you. They're just giving other people another option.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, I don't know. I I don't want to talk about what it's like. It doesn't matter what it's like. It's just, for me, I think it's goofy, and people can be mad at me if they want. But guess what? There's going to be people who, if they get it running on the Steam Deck, there's going to be people who would just customize Steam input in order to do a quarter circle forward heavy punch automatically with a single press of a button anyway. And what are you going to do about that? Well, why? How about Capcom just takes care of it for us and puts everybody on level playing field?
So I got two final questions for you before we head on out, and one of them is, with Steam Deck now not only selling over 1 million units but also getting into the Asian market, where do you see it going from there? Because a lot of people assumed that it wasn't, well, phrase that better. There was a vocal minority that thought that the Steam Deck was going to be another flop in the handheld PC gaming space. So
I don't know how you would. I don't know how you can define whether or not it's succeeded or flopped. Here's the thing about the Steam Deck that is wildly different than all of the other consoles that whether they succeed or flop.
mm-hmm.
And the point, the difference is, if you got one and nobody else got one, doesn't do anything for you. Like, there's no difference because the games are all already there. It doesn't need tons of people. I mean, it helped. It's definitely good that tons of people are buying it, because that means devs will target the Steam Deck in order to make sure that their games run well.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need them to do that. You can, finesse your settings, mess around with the TDP in order to get, just the right mix of graphical fidelity and frame rate for you, because you have those options, because it is a PC.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it did flop, I was like, I got to buy one of these because it's going to be great for me, whether or not other people buy it. Now, it turns out that it's doing really well. And some people might say, well, 1 million, how, is that really successful? Well, I mean, they were selling them as fast as they could make them. That's the thing, is they couldn't meet demand until today. As we record this, we're recording this October 6th at 5:30 p.m. for me. They couldn't meet that demand until today. And I suspect that once this thing gets into stores,
Mm-hmm.
it is going to take off like a rocket, because people are going to, if Valve is smart, they'll do that thing where they've got a Steam Deck and, it's got that giant clamp on there where you go into Best Buy and there's a Nintendo Switch there. They need to have a Steam Deck there for people to try out. Because when people try it out and they're like, oh, well, this is really cool. And then they try out, what's the new game that just came out on the Steam Deck, the Valve game? Aperture Desk Job. Yeah. And they try out Aperture Desk Job. That's the perfect store demo. It's perfect for it. You just walk in, you try that out. You got this guy talking to you about moving the table around and using the gyros or the trackpads in order to move these little balls around on screen. It's a really cool tech demo. That is going to sell Steam Decks like crazy. And they've already announced that they're going to try and get into stores over in the Asian markets once they meet their demand out there. I'm sure that they're going to do it here. And I'm sure that they are working with, the big box stores like Best Buy and Walmart and Target and all those in order to get shelf space for this thing, especially now that they've proven that it's a hit. Yeah. So what do I think is coming for it? I think we're going to be seeing Steam Decks for a long time, and it's really exciting.
Yeah. I when I saw Square Enix, when they were I think when Final Fantasy VII Remake came to Steam, and they were
Mhm.
showcasing it. The first thing they showed was like it running on Steam Deck. I'm like, the gaming industry has been tracking this. Like, okay, now we can push stuff to this dedicated device, and that's going to open up a lot of opportunities there. And I know this is kind of an adjacent topic, but I know like there are other devices like the INEO devices and the AOK Zoe and such. And one thing that I've said, I'm not sure if you have the same opinion, but I know people compare those because people like comparing things. I think the difference, even if those devices are capable of being more powerful, yeah, they've got Windows and such. The thing is, you're going to see the reason you're seeing so many of those pushed out is because they're selling the hardware. They've got to constantly sell the hardware. Valve, I mean, they're making what the Steam Deck at a loss to fit for all intents and
Well, we
purposes.
don't know. I suspect they're selling the Steam Deck. At least the bottom tier, I think that
Yeah,
they're selling that at a loss. At least that one, probably others as well.
yeah,
But we don't know for sure.
yeah. But they're making up. I mean, you get the device, you're buying games off of Steam.
Mm-hmm.
There's constant Steam sales, so they've got a constant fluctuation of revenue. So that's the biggest thing. Like, yeah, I've seen these other devices. They've piqued some curiosity, but I look at the price of that and I'm like, man, I could just get a Steam Deck for the price. Like, even the highest tier Steam Deck is still cheaper than a lot of these other devices, like the AOK Zoe, and I think there's another one that got announced. And Aya is always introducing a new device every 3 to 4 months.
I've never seen a company cannibalize their own market more than Ioneo. It's just crazy. They're like, I think I saw one of those. It was like a meme. I don't remember which meme it was, but it was like there was the Ioneo, and then there was somebody pointing a gun at the thing that was the Ioneo, and it was the Ioneo next, and then there was somebody who was like doing a sniper shot of those two, and it was like the Ioneo Next Pro Max whatever, and it was like they just kept going. Like
Yeah,
these guys just they keep eating into their own market, but they also like their target is like we want to sell a really powerful system,
yeah,
and so they keep making the next thing. That's the thing about the PC gaming market is that there's always upgrades. It's very different than the console market where it's like here's your thing and this is the thing that you have for 7 years, and 7 years is up, here's the new thing. The PC gaming market is way different than that. And that's where I think like a lot of these other ones, especially like Ioneo, I think they're trying to kind of hit that model,
hmm,
but their margins have got to be so razor thin that unless like I don't know anybody that can do what Valve is doing right now. Selling this device for $400 is bananas,
yeah,
especially when you look at the idea like you get an OLED Switch for 350. Like that's only $50 cheaper, and the Steam Deck can do a whole lot more. It doesn't have that pretty OLED screen, but the Steam Deck can do more. Watch out. All the Nintendo fans are going to be mad at me. That's okay. Hey, I did a Nintendo podcast for like 5 years, people. Don't get mad at me. I like Nintendo.
so I, one of the last things I wanted to bring up about that, since we mentioned Nintendo, is I honestly think Nintendo can learn a lot from the Steam Deck as far as like the architecture of the hardware, because I think whatever they make next, yeah, it'll be more powerful than the current Switch. But I think with how the Steam Deck is able to run majority of AAA games, even if it's at medium or low settings, that's something Nintendo can look at and be like, hey, you know, this is something we can implement, because Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they implement things from each other all the time. That's just how that market goes. But I think the next device they make, I don't know if it's going to be a Switch or a Switch 2. I do think it's time for an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Switch launched 6 years ago, which is bananas to say. And when it launched, it was already dated hardware.
Yeah.
That's something that Nintendo has always done. Like, there's a quote from Gunpei Yokoi, who's the guy who invented like the D-pad, where he said Nintendo's, and I'm butchering this terribly, but Nintendo's like philosophy is take old stuff and use it in new ways. Like that's what Nintendo has always really done. Like, should they mimic what the Steam Deck, like the architecture of the Steam Deck? I don't know. I think that they'll probably stick with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the one that makes the Tegra chip, and we had the Tegra 2 chip. Like, I can't remember which chip they're using, but whatever chip that Nintendo is using from NVIDIA, a Tegra something. The next version was like leaked a while ago, and we still don't see that. And I think, and I could be wrong, that the OLED Switch was supposed to be the next Switch, but because computer hardware was just so impossible to get a hold of, Nintendo said, you know what, screw it. We'll just stick with the same thing because we are doing so well. I think they're on their way to be the most, like, the best selling console of all time. I think eventually they're going to pass the PS2 with the Switch. Should they update? Yes, they should. Will they? I think so. Will they do 12 things awesome and 5 things terribly? Yep. That's exactly what Nintendo does every time, and I love them for it.
Especially when we're seeing like a lot of games that are coming out that are AAA cloud versions. So we got Resident Evil 2 remake, 3 remake, 7 and Village. They're all cloud versions on the Switch. What was the other game? Control was a cloud version. And even Kingdom Hearts, which that one kind of surprised me a little bit. Like, you couldn't get that.
Kingdom Hearts 3 makes sense that would be a cloud version, but the first two? I think that was just Square being lazy. Square was like, well, we already got this one cloud version. Let's just put them all in there, and then we don't have to do it all. Hey, I'm a fan of cloud gaming. Like, I had a podcast about Stadia. Like, I've got a Stadia controller here. I have a 3080 tier for GeForce Now. I have a Luna controller somewhere in here. I'm a fan of cloud gaming. It's terrible on the Switch because the Switch has, like, it's a handheld, and the Wi-Fi in the Switch is just kind of not great. So, like, I tried playing Control on the Switch because they had the demo, and it just didn't run very well. Especially, like, it was very, very laggy, I felt. So if Nintendo is looking to, and I don't think that they are, but if Nintendo's looking for the cloud to save them, I don't think a portable system is really the way to go, which is why when we just saw, do you know what's the name of the one that just got announced, the Logitech one?
Oh, the G Cloud.
Yeah, the G Cloud. I think that that's a terrible device. Not because I think cloud gaming is bad, but it's too expensive. It needs to be a whole lot cheaper if it's just going to be a cloud device, in my opinion. But hey, nerd in an attic. That's what I say.
All right. With that being said, anything you want to leave the audience with before we go? Any final thoughts, rants? The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. This has nothing to do with the Steam Deck. I just saw the trailer for the Mario movie, and I'm here for it. I think that Jack Black as Bowser is fantastic casting. Well, the whole cast has unbelievably great comedy chops. And then there's Chris Pratt as Mario, and when we heard his voice, I was like, that's fine. It doesn't bother me even a little. And I'm looking forward to that movie now. Did you see the trailer?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And I've seen some people complain about it, but for the most part, when I saw it, I was watching it with my kids, and I was like, this works. You know, it was like seeing the second Sonic trailer before we got, when they got rid of Ugly Sonic.
Ugly Sonic. Yeah, I feel like, boy, like when everybody was like, they should have just had Charles Martinet. I don't think people understand how irritating, not that Charles Martinet's voice is irritating. Charles Martinet's Mario voice is great when he goes wahoo.
Mm-hmm.
But for an extended period of time where he's like speaking a paragraph, I don't want to hear his voice do that. Like that would be really grating.
Yeah.
And so I was glad. I was very skeptical when they said Chris Pratt. I was like, oh, what are they doing? But then they said the rest of the cast, and I was like, oh, this is a comedy. All right, you sold me. And I watched the trailer today, and I think it's great.
Definitely. All right. And that being said, tell people where they can find you. Anything you're working on lately? Promote, plug, everything.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of projects, a lot of pans in the fire. You can find my YouTube channel over at nerdnest.tv or youtube.com/nerdnest. If you want to check out a podcast all about PC gaming and the Steam Deck, I've got On Deck, and I also have a podcast. It's a almost daily micro podcast about the video game industry where I take a topic each day and talk about it for hopefully less than 10 minutes, and that is called Games with Bill. And then finally, if you want to check out an older show that I have, it's got like 50 episodes banked in it where I find people and talk to them about some of their favorite games. Like I had the creator of Diablo, David Brevik, on the show, and we talked about how he met his wife in EverQuest. I had Jeff Kanata from the Totally Rad show on, and we talked about growing up as nerds, loving video games and stuff like that. And that show is called 143 Pixels. If you look for the podcasts On Deck, 143 Pixels, and Games with Bill, wherever you get your podcasts, you'll see my stupid face, and you can check it out there.
You know, now that you said that, I want to see a podcast with you and Ashley Edward Miller, the guy who created Dota Dragon's Blood on Netflix. He's a big gamer.
I don't know anything about that.
Like, he's a big gamer. He wrote the first Thor.
Thor Ragnarok?
No,
or not Thor Ragnarok. Thor, like, I thought that was Kenneth Branagh. Maybe he just directed it. I don't know.
So that because he wrote it. And I think you two would have a lot of fun. I just did a podcast with him not long ago. So he's definitely super chill.
Cool. Very cool. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for having me on. This was really fun.
So, man, thank you. I'd love to have you on again anytime you're available. And, yeah, this is fun. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you go and if you're watching it on YouTube, like, comment, sub, all that good stuff that, YouTube wants you to do. If you're listening to it on podcast, it's on all podcasting outlets. But if you're on Apple or Spotify, hey, leave a like, share it around, leave a comment, all that good stuff. And make sure you follow our guests. I have links to all of Bill's stuff down below in the description. And with that being said, we're signing out. We hope you have a great and aloha rest of your day.
Mahalo.